Hello, this is Shalimar Steinberg, and this is the step-by-step for the second part of the parking lot assignment. And if we look into our standards again, back at the example that we're using for our single accessible parking space, we will notice that there are a couple of required signs here. So there are a few options. You can have one sign that goes directly above the aisle, but it needs to be on the other side of the accessible route. And in order for that to happen, we can't have anything there, and in our drawing we would be having our building start there. So what we're going to do is we're going to have the two signs that point towards the aisle instead, and we'll have the two signs on this side that show that it's a reserved parking for van accessible spots. So instead of drawing these signs in, what we're going to be doing is creating a couple of blocks that have attributes associated with them for text that allow us to say what signs need to be ordered for this space. So we'll start off by looking at the PowerPoint on block attributes. And if we look at this, we will see that an attribute is a tag or a label for blocks. So you can use attributes to add text to a block and then to change what the text says every time that you insert the block if you want to. So they're often used to fill in the text in a title block or create inventory and bill of material information for parts of a drawing, and they can be exported into tables that can be moved to Excel if you want. The basic commands for attributes have to do with defining the attribute to start with, which is Pt2, and this allows you to create the attribute text. Once you've done that and associated it with your block by putting it next to it, it will create the block itself. So first you just have the object that you're going to turn into a block, which will be our sign, for example, and then the attributes that you've put on it, and then you insert the block and you'll answer the questions that it will ask you. The ATE command will let you edit attributes once you've made them. The display attributes command, or @disp, will allow you to look at the attributes that an object has, and eat text will allow you to extract attributes into that table. We won't have an assignment on this, but I will put up a PowerPoint and lecture on Wednesday. Okay, so when you're using the att-def command, it's going to open to this screen, which is the attribute definition dialog box, and you will have some options. The first one will be your tag. So for example, in our tabs, or our signs, sorry, the attributes are going to be the model number and the type of sign that it is. So tag 1 would be model. The prompt would be what is the model number, so it will ask you that every time. And our default is going to be 0 because we'll type something different each time. Then we'll leave our justification to left. We will want the lock position on, and your text height for this assignment could be about 3 inches. And then you're going to say OK. Now your second tag would be, so you'd do the att-def command again, would be type, and what type is the sign, and your default is going to be 0 again. Same text settings and everything, and then on this button will light up because it's the second one, and you'll say align below previous attribute definition, which will line them up for you automatically. You won't have to tell it where to put it. After you have put your two text pieces on the rectangular shape that you've created, you're going to use the block command, so B, and then you will select objects, and you'll pick first the rectangular outline, then you'll click in order on the two attributes, and then you'll name the attribute, or sorry, the name of the block will be access sign, and then you will make sure that you pick delete item in the box when it shows up, and I'll show you that in just a second, and then you'll go ahead and insert the block where you need and change the values on the tags. If you have problems with it, you can use the edit command on the next page to go back and edit them. So this one will open up a little manager where you can change the text size or height. You can change the default answers or the prompt values for those. Okay, so let's look at how this is actually going to work with our assignment. We have the written part of the assignment here says to create a rectangle that is 1 foot tall by 2 feet wide off to the side of the drawing. And we will add 2 attributes using Pt2 in the center. The first one will be type and the second will be model, although if they're in a different order, that's fine. And the block command will be used to create a sign block out of that. Make sure you choose delete when it asks what you want the block to do after creation. And then you're going to insert that 4 times to match this. So you'll have 1 stacked above the accessible parking space with a second one stacked above it, and then 2 stacked on this side. And you'll use these numbers, which are written in the assignment, as the model numbers that you input. Then you'll do the same thing, creating a new block with 2 attributes for status and number. This block, once it's created, will be used to show the apartment numbers of the 4 reserved spots. So reserved will be the default for the status, and the numbers 1 through 4 will be what you'll input for the apartment numbers. So let's look at that really quick. Okay, so we're going to go in here, and we are going to create our rectangle. And I'm just going to draw it kind of off to the side here because we're going to make sure it deletes afterwards. And I'm going to go to dimensions. So I'm going to tell it the length is going to be the 2 feet. And height will be 1 foot. So I've got my little rectangle here. Then I can zoom in on this a little bit. And yes, it looks very small, but that's only in comparison to the large size of the parking lot. So I'm going to go in here. And now I can type that Pt2. And it is in lock position. And I want my text height to be 3 inches. So I'll put that in. And left is correct. My tag is going to be type. And my prompt is going to be what type sign. And my default will be 0. And I'm happy with all those settings, so I'm going to say OK. And I'm going to drag it right in here to the center. Then I'm going to do another one. And this time my tag will be model. And my prompt will be what model of sign. And my default again will be 0. And this time I'm going to click a line below previous attribute definition. And I'll say OK. So now I have both of those in. At this point is when I go to block my command. So I'm going to do B for block. And I'm going to name it access sign. And I'm going to specify my base point on screen. I'm going to select the objects. So I'll pick my box. And then each of the 2 texts. I hit enter and it opens this back up. Here's where I'm going to tell it to delete the original one, and everything else is good, so I'm going to say OK. Now I'm going to pick the part where I want it to be inserted from as the base point, and you see it disappeared. Now I can go back over to where my actual drawing is here, and I'm going to go to the Insert tab, and I will insert. And I'll scroll down until I get to the one that I just created. And I'm going to insert 1 here. And it's asking me what type of sign is it. I could say rectangular, or I could say access. I'm just going to name the shape. And then the model of sign is going to be the R7-8, and that's the reserved parking sign. So I'll go back in and I'll say R7-8, and I say OK, and it has now changed to be that one. Then I can go ahead and do insert again, and I don't want to just copy them because I want the text to change automatically each time. And I'm just going to go straight up from that a little bit, and this time I will say again rectangle. And this time it'll be the R7-8 8A, which is the van accessible sign. So I'll say OK, and it creates that one there. And then I'll do my 2 more and put their numbers in correctly. I'm going to repeat this process by creating another rectangle over to the side, which has 2 attributes for, I believe it was status and number. And then I will insert those over these parking spaces, and when the default questions are asked, I will change the status to reserved and the number to 1, 2, 3, and 4 for the apartments that they're reserved for. And that will be your final part of the drawing. You just need to go to your B-size template and double click in here and zoom extents, and then choose a scale. We found that 3/16 inch equals a foot works very well. And then go out here and just change your text for the scale and then your name, etc. All right, have a good time.